This is your strange and beautiful life. Wow. Hi, everybody, and welcome to This is Your Strange and Beautiful Life. My name is Erica J. Schmidt, and on my podcast, I talk to people who may or may not have had the chance to transform their lives into spectacular TED Talks. And today we have a VIP guest who is actually going to come on the podcast at least 2 times. Today is the first time. Today's episode is called, do you remember what we called it?
I believe it was Unhinged Ways to Learn French in Montreal or
Quebec, I think. But we are in Montreal.
We are.
Unhinged Ways to Learn French in Montreal, Quebec. Right. But this is Jahon, and fun fact, we did not meet on Hinge. Also, we did not learn French by reading the dictionary before bed, which is excellent news. Jahon has developed quite excellent French. Hes methods have been typical, also not typical. He is very excited to share his adventures in cringe slam poetry about poutine. Say poutine like you're supposed to say it. Say poutine like you're from Quebec.
Poutine. So you have to add like
poutine.
Between the T and the I, you have to add a little, like almost a Z or an S.
Yeah, poutine.
Poutine.
Yeah, well.
Like, fun fact, if you want to say any day of the week in French, a little bit more like a local, you would add an S between the D and the I. So lundi becomes lundi. Mardi becomes mardi. And so on and so forth.
Okay, we're going to have so many fun facts. Yeah, so cringe slam poetry about poutine.
Yeah.
Poutine. Improv in French, stand-up comedy in French.
Yeah.
I am going to introduce you to our very special guest, but first, I think, Jahon, you wanted to say something about politics?
We're not going to talk about politics. There's a 1,000,000,001 podcasts that discuss language and politics here in this beautiful province. We're going to talk more like the personal and educational aspect of learning this language here.
Okay. Everybody, this is Jahon's bio. Okay, my guest, his name is Jahon Mousavi-Torbati. He is a self-described Anglo-Quebecer of mixed diversity. This is his choice of words. He is a talented concept artist and regular artist. Those of you who are on our smash hit TV channel, you may see some of his drawings in his background. So everybody, you better hit up YouTube. This is Your Strange and Beautiful Life. But he has made a recent pivot to storytelling and stand-up comedy. Jahon has immense enthusiasm for urban transit, Kobo e-readers, pineapples, and ending doom scrolling for all time. Jahon is just someone who exudes immense enthusiasm. Also, surprise, he's my boyfriend. Like the universe is rejoicing because Erica has a boyfriend, and it's been more than 2 months. It's been over a year. Oh my goodness. I'm very enthusiastic about having Jahon as my boyfriend. Jahon Mousavi-Torbati, at long last, welcome to This is Your Strange and Beautiful Life. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, Erica. Thank you so much for having me here. It was so kind of you to say all those nice things about me. All right, so you promised me that I can do a little thing to introduce the host, because not everybody knows the host, because some of my friends and people I know might be listening to this. So Erica.
Huge fan club.
Huge fan club. So who's Erica? Erica, she's a girl born in Perth, not the kangaroo Perth, the cool Perth, the one with Shakespeare in the Park in Ontario. And Erica volunteered 2 years of her life to work with people with special needs in a special house. She's a lady of tons of empathy. It was a coming-of-age novel she wrote. You can potentially be a beta reader. And
beta reader.
No, Erica. They beta read Her, as in
Oh
you.
no.
So they better read her. Erica also in her 20s briefly dated a spiritual guru, life coach, yoga master, which is just another way of saying Erica dated a guy who liked quoting himself. And she wrote about it in a play. It's a great play. If you have a chance to read it, message her. Maybe she might make you a beta reader. And also, she also happened to swipe left or right. I'm not sure which one. The one where you match on Bumble with her therapist, her 13th therapist. Because we all know that is the coolest, healthiest thing to do as a therapist is to match with your clients. And if you want, you can also become a better reader. But Erica told me before this podcast, I'm not even joking. She told me, Jahon, do not call my test readers beta readers. Call them alpha readers. Because anybody who reads my stuff, Erica J. Schmidt, is an alpha. So you don't got to go to the gym, guys. You don't got to take weird supplements, do weird juices, listen to Manly Man Angry podcasts to be, an alpha. You just got to, read some of Erica's literature and you'll actually gain some empathy. You'll become a better version of yourself. If all the world leaders right now were listening to Erica and reading Erica's book, they would have so much empathy and sympathy and understanding, and they'll probably laugh a lot and the world will be a better place. And that's my pitch.
Okay, that's very sweet. Everybody,
one last thing. And Erica is a huge thief because she stole my heart.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's really sweet. Everybody, Jahon, I want everybody to know that Jahon came up with that without using ChatGPT, and I had no say in it. That was a full surprise. So I guess I'm looking for alpha readers for a couple of manuscripts. Yeah. And one of the books is called, it has a new title. It's called She Is Not Catholic, She Is Vegetarian. And it's only 150 pages. So
I just want to highlight, I'm very unbiased. I'm kind of like, imagine a minister, a housing minister who's also a real estate agent. That's how unbiased I am as your boyfriend.
And we've never heard of that. Housing ministers, real estate agents. We don't know anything about politics.
Oh, no politics.
No. Okay, so we want to say, Unhinged Ways, we learned French in Quebec. Neither of us are francophone, but we both love French and we're committed to having amazing French. So maybe we should tell everybody about our linguistic origins. So Jahon, where are you from and what languages did you grow up with?
You sure you don't want to go first, Erica?
No.
Okay.
I asked you first.
You're very assertive. I like that. So my name is Jahon. I'm born here in Montreal. My name means world because my hippie mother, who I love very much, is born on one side of the world. She's French Quebecer, and my dad's born in the Middle East. He's from the country of Iran. And both of them studied at McGill. They both, got very proficient at English, even though my dad's first language is Persian, sometimes referred to as Farsi, and my mother's is French. They kind of more or less gravitated more to be English speaking. My mom, she went to an English primary school as well as a French one before, but she switched. And at home, we only spoke English predominantly. My dad did kind of do a little bit of an effort at 8, switching into Persian.
When you were 8 years old.
Yeah, when I was 8 years old. But I would say, predominantly English. I personally wish my parents were a little bit more disciplined and they spoke both languages to me from the get-go. And I had more exposure to both cultures through various mediums. I will say, though, I was sent into what they call the French immersion program here in Quebec. And so for those out of province, there's pretty much 2 education systems. You have Francophone and Anglophone. The Francophone one is a little bit more structured and you have a certain amount of English every now and then. However, the Anglophone one is a lot less structured. So you'll have what we call bilingual school, which would be half English, half French, all throughout primary school, 50-50. And then you have the French immersion school, still in the Anglophone side of school board, which will be from kindergarten to grade 2, just in French, and then from grade 3 to 6, half and half. I would say even that's not enough. And the reason I would say it's not enough is because you're not talking to kids informally in French. You're not socializing. You're not, during class period, they kind of force you to speak French, but it's like, I'm hearing your mistakes of mixing up masculine and feminine. You're hearing my mistakes, hearing masculine and feminine. It's like, what are we doing here? Fantastic teachers, don't get me wrong. But if I had to do it again, I would have, because I know some people that, their parents sent them to a pure, like a full-on francophone
French
school board school. And what's nice about that is they have such a great foundation. And at home, they were speaking English. And because of not even that, just the internet, video games, TV shows, books, like they were just, they just caught up really fast. So I would have definitely
with
changed
English.
that. What about yourself, Erica? How was your upbringing?
Well, thanks for asking. Yeah, but just to reiterate, you're saying that like you're going to be able to watch shows in English. There's already like a dominant culture in English, even in Montreal. So it's like, may as well expose your kids to as much French as possible because they're going to pick up English with books, Netflix, all that stuff.
Absolutely. Even if you are an anglophone, it's like you're speaking to your kid in English. They're going to understand it.
Oh, so you wanted to know where I grew up?
Yeah, tell me.
Okay, well, I grew up in the metropolis of Perth, Ontario, population 6,000 in 1991. And we had core French, from kindergarten to grade 4. So we sang songs like Bonjour mes amis, bonjour, bonjour mes amis, bonjour. It's like a classic, right?
What does that mean?
Also, c'est l'Halloween, hey. And it's like just, very iconic songs. We sang the alphabet. We counted to 100. And then in grade 5, we had the opportunity for French immersion. But French immersion was only half days. So we would have just half our days in French, like either the morning or the afternoon, and then the other half in English. Was it usually mornings? It was often the afternoons in French, which I think was slightly longer, but and then we would have certain subjects always in English, like math. I was very dorky about French, and I really liked it even when we were just doing the songs in core French. And I remember being like, oh, there's like a word for every word in English has a word in French. So I remember trying to translate I don't know, like The Lion King, just any song I knew, I would be trying to translate in French. But yeah, I mean, we had some Francophone teachers, but I know for me, I ended up with quite a strong Ontario accent, which I'm told is charming, but it's a little demoralizing as well. And then in high school, we went. We had the opportunity for extended French, but really that would only be like a course a semester. So we would take like a French language class per year, and then like history or geography. And so as a result, I would say the outcome of that is not very many people coming out of Perth, Ontario, use their French. There are some people who became French teachers in Ontario because that's actually in very high demand. But I don't know that they feel so confident about their French. And also, my history and geography are pretty bad because I did it in French. I mean, a lot of us have bad history class because there was a lot that was omitted in the curriculum. But yeah, just I think I missed out on some situating myself in the world, geographically. So that was Perth, Ontario. And then I was I moved to Montreal for university, kept taking French, advanced French classes. And then Jahon mentioned in my very effusive bio, he mentioned that I took 2 years off during university to live and work at a house for people with intellectual disabilities. And it was the people with disabilities, the residents were mainly English, but it was a very Francophone working environment. And so that helped a lot with my, fluency.
No, I just have a quick question, if that's okay. So I just want to understand, it's only as of grade 5, it was half and half, but before grade 5, it was just predominantly English?
Yeah, it was all English. And then Madame Normandin would come. She had a cart and she would come and give us duotangs that we could color, and we would sing songs and count.
Oh, wow.
And so we had like 20 minutes a few times a week. It was pretty basic.
Wow.
Yeah.
My goodness. I feel, whoa. That's I can't imagine. I think honestly, Erica, you should pat yourself on the back.
Oh,
You
that's
did
really
so good.
sweet.
Because I can't imagine, like, I just don't think that's even fair for you. Like,
Well, putting the words, but it's a little bit like it's like the core French, right? It's almost like French appreciation or something. But there's debate about just cutting the core French, because what does that actually, like, how much French, these kids who only have those little songs and 20 minutes a few times a week, like they can't come to Montreal and order a sandwich. Well, they could say, or sandwich s'il vous plaît. They could do sandwich, right? But they don't have like really any grasp of the language. Yeah, but some people have, like, people who took an interest, they went on language exchanges to Paris or France, and they did become bilingual. I have a friend, shout out to Taya Ford, but she became a veterinarian in French. She was honestly so brilliant. But yeah, so she learned, so she did become fluent. There were a few people, but it really took like extra effort, I would say.
oh, wow. And out of curiosity, did you read any books in French in elementary or high school, like as part of assigned reading?
Yeah, but we could choose any book we wanted. Madame Capello, who was my teacher in grade 5 and grade 8, what a wonderful, like, really highlight of some of the highlights of my education were my French teachers. I love them. Madame Fillipoff as well. I read L'œil du tigre. I read Judy Blume books. I read a Judy Blume novel in French, and then I read Alice in Wonderland in French. Like a few handfuls, yeah. Oh, yeah, because you didn't read so many books in French, you thought.
Yeah, I just thought it was kind of really bad. I remember in grade 8, it just stopped. And I remember my mom asked, like, during parent-teacher night, like, why, like, what's the deal? And my son just keeps saying he's reading these news articles. And they're like, yeah, well, we discovered the kids weren't reading the books. So we stopped giving books. And then we just gave them newspaper clippings to read. But it's just like, I don't completely blame the teachers. I do think they might not be getting the resources from admin to really implement that kids do their homework. So maybe there might be a little disconnect there. But I remember showing up in CEGEP, and my French teacher, great French teacher at John Abbott College, Frederic, he made us read 99 Francs, and it was like a proper, like, it was a proper book, and I haven't read a book in French in a long time. And I just felt like I was learning so much just by reading his book. And
reading a book, you do learn a lot of words,
yeah,
right?
And he's just like, you got to highlight everything. You got to write in the margins. And it was like the first time a teacher was telling me to, like, dessicrate a book. And I was just like, what?
Yeah.
You want me to hurt this book? And he's like, no. We're not hurting. On améliore le thé. I was like, whoa, like we're
making it better.
We're making this better. We're making this yours. On personnalise. We're personalizing the book. I'm like, Frederic Lagagnère, you beautiful man.
Well, we'll send him the episode, and maybe he'll subscribe to the podcast.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you mentioned that, yeah, your parents did not speak their native language at home, and I know you have a few feelings about this. But I don't know, maybe one of the reasons that your mother spoke to you and your brother and your father in English was because his French was kind of terrible. Would you like to tell us the story about your father?
So yeah, my dad learned that Montreal was like just a place that existed in the world due to the Montreal Olympics. And then
1976.
1976, and then he came here. Really just because one of his friends was like, yeah, I'm just going to go to Montreal. And he was like, okay, can I come? And it could have been anywhere. I mean, this guy could have gone to, I don't know, like Japan, and I would have been, maybe half Japanese. That would have been cool too. I mean, I'm happy I'm born here. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, like at the time, it was just like you could it was before all the French programs for the newcomers were happening. And, he studied it in English because I think also where people meet kind of plays into whether or not what language they initially speak to each other in, because they were just at a English language university. I do think it had there was a little less conversation, a little bit more laissez-faire type attitude when it came to language. I know my dad was a little bit more stern when it came to Persian. I know when I was 8, he did the switch. And also I remember the reason now we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but one of the reasons I started speaking French with my mom is I wanted to speak French with my mom. And the reason is I got a really bad grade. And in my family, getting a bad grade was just getting under 80%. I got 76 in French when I was like 12. And then, and then I remember my parents were like, my mom was like, Jahon, how come you got such a bad grade in French? I was like 12 years old. How come you got such a bad grade in French, Jahon? And I just responded, because you don't speak to me in French at home.
Oh.
and then she's like, Bailo, Jahon. And then my dad's like, he kind of has a point there,
Right.
And it was like one of the rare times I was like, thank you, I guess. And then I kind of like pushed my mom to speak to me and practice to me in French, and that helped quite a bit.
Right. So you were talking about how you felt like your French was not good enough when you got a 76. I mean, debatable. That's just respectable grades. But I think you had another turning point where you're like, no, my French is not where it needs to be as a Quebecer in Montreal. So.
Yeah, I mean, you do have a point. It was basically when, may she rest in peace, my grandmother, Nanny Claire, she passed away when I was around that age. And
what age? 12?
12, yeah, I think 12-ish.
Okay.
And I went to her funeral. I met all her extended family, very nice. And they all were speaking French, and they were speaking French to me, and I was speaking French the best of my ability. But it wasn't like I noticed there was a dramatic difference between how they were speaking French and how I was speaking French. Like, it was like they were just really good at it. Like, I mean, they're made
they were fluent.
Yeah, you might even say it's their mother tongue. Of course, it was their mother tongue, but I kind of wished I had that ability to speak French at that level, And I remember also, likewise, I read a book called Spoken Here, a really great book in high school. And in the book, they talk about various groups that want to preserve the language because it's slowly going away. And included in the book are Indigenous people who are trying to preserve the language. And I was just like looking at it, I'm like, you know what? My situation's not as hard as their situation. Like, they're really fighting for their lives to keep this culture alive. And I think it's just so inspiring. I highly recommend the book. I think it's written by either Montreal author or maybe just broader federal.
Spoken Here?
Yeah, great book.
Okay, we'll link it in the show notes.
Yeah, and it really did inspire me quite a bit. And later, I already had the idea in my head of like maybe going to a French university, which I eventually went to a French university, Université de Montréal. And so that's kind of like the big moments. What about you yourself, Erica? What was there a kind of a little moment?
Okay. Well, I mean, in my first year at McGill, I was placed in like the second highest French as an additional language class, and I was doing fine. I mean, I was so nerdy in school. Like, I used to write out all the dictée words. I would write out all the verbs and stuff, conjugations, like futur conditionnel, like all the very, stuff that I'm not sure you could test me on with flying colors now. But I was nerdy. So I was getting like good grades or whatever. But the teacher said, "Oh, Erica, you're not in trouble, but come to visit me in my office." I thought, oh no. But he did say I wasn't in trouble. But he said, your French is good, you have a good vocabulary, but you cannot roll your R's, which is kind of still the case. It's okay. He's like, you talk like an anglophone. I was like, well, that's amazing. I am an anglophone. And he gave me a cassette tape, and he had all these words with R's in them, and I had to, he was like, so I say the words and then you just repeat them. So he was like, alors, and then there'd be a pause, and then I would have to repeat it just on my own time. I know that my pronunciation, my accent is still like a point de croissance. It's not exquisite. Another time, I just find what's interesting is that some people, when you speak French with them, it just clicks and you find all your words and you have like a real conversation with your personality and everybody is having a great time. I have found, we'll talk about like ways we improved our French, but one of them for me was I watched TV in French. It's not very original, but I really like medical shows. So I watched like this soap opera, medical soap opera that's Quebecois medical soap opera. It's called Stat. It's set in an ER. And one summer I was like underemployed and depressed. And I was like, cool, I'm going to practice my French. So I watched, it had just come out. There were 123 episodes. Like they were only 20 minutes, but I watched all of them in like a month. I just sat there watching it, and I do think it improved my French. However, I have since run into 6 of the actors from Quebec Grey's Anatomy. We're like, oh, there's Sophia, the nurse, and like the head doctor. I ran into them, and reliably, I lose all of my French when I see them. I'm like, oh, bonjour, j'écoute votre émission. And I'm like so excited. And I'm like, j'essaie de pratiquer mon français. And I'm like, but I can barely tell them that. And it's embarrassing. But yeah.
No, Erica, it happens to the best of us. They say like when you get nervous, your accent comes out. I find that happens quite a bit. And I think I'm going to ask the question that everybody's thinking right now. Like, was there any McSteamies or McDreamies in the Quebec?
I didn't see the McSteamies. Oh, that's not going to be nice for the ones I did run into. But because I ran into Suzanne Leclerc. She's like one of the female heartthrobs, and also Sophia. I won't name the actor who wasn't particularly kind, but otherwise 5 out of the 6 actors were very kind. And yeah, one of them I've seen lives in my neighborhood. I've seen him 2 times. He's the nurse. He plays Danielle. Troubled character. Anyways, but yeah, there was the McSteamy of Quebec Grey's Anatomy, but I never found him. But when I do, I'm going to say, oh, j'aime bien votre émission. Ça m'aide à pratiquer mon français. Merci beaucoup. I'm ready.
That's really cool. I think that's another point that maybe we can add is when you start listening to French media, because like Quebec really has its own ecosystem, its own star system. So like Quebecers will almost, I'd say, consume maybe 50% of their media in French. So that can be series, that can be podcasts, that can be music. While in English Canada, we pretty much listen to a bunch of podcasts that are shot in New York or California or anywhere else, or writers.
Less of a loyalty almost.
Yeah, less. I really found, I almost felt like growing up as a kid, I'm like, oh man, we're living in a city that doesn't have, these big celebrities, but
stars, yeah.
But in reality, like once we start getting a little bit immersed in the French-speaking side, and you start consuming, music or podcasts in French, you see them walking around. And you're like, oh my god, I live in the coolest place in town. And you're like, this whole time,
it's pretty fun.
This whole town, I had no idea I lived in the coolest place in town. Anyways,
yeah, no, and it's just like there's like a community. I also listen to French. I listen to local Radio Canada, like the news based in Montreal. And that was also to practice my French. And the host, her name is Annie Desrochers. And I just feel such kinship with Annie. I don't know if I'll ever see her. I'll get all starstruck, but it's just, it's nice. They're just hanging out where we are. And I love that. But speaking of identities, Jahon, you lived in France for 6 months on a university exchange, and that was the first time someone called you Le Québécois. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so basically, just to get everybody up to date, I went through more like the English language system up until CEGEP. CEGEP is a post-secondary education program that's between high school and university, 2 years. Then I switched into a 4-year French language program at Université de Montréal in design, industrial design, and it was really tough to get in. That's a whole other story. And then into that, I decided, because I really wanted to explore more, just Francophone culture, I decided to go do 6 months at École de Nantes Atlantique, great school. People were super nice. People were really confused by my accent. Honestly, I would say a third thought I was from another country, or maybe even half. So they thought I was like, someone who's proficient, but maybe from like, Latin America or Middle East, North Africa, who speaks French, but not as a first language. I would say another quarter could kind of guess I'm Quebecer. And then, but they wouldn't catch that I'm like, I have the anglophone part. They just thought I was just like, oh wow, this guy really mixes up his English, his masculine and feminine. And then I would say about a quarter, and these were like definitely the people who knew me later could guess I'm like, oh, that's a very Montreal, like Quebec Anglo accent, and they could get it right. A lot of times there was a lot of funny moments, a lot of laughing. But like in a good way, I don't take things personally at all. I remember at first week, I'm like, am I the funniest guy in town? Like, what's going on? And then I was just like,
Well, you're very funny.
Oh,
His
thank you.
jokes, remember my bio? Very funny.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. But like some of the stuff I wasn't even saying that was funny. People were just like, ah, and I was like, what's going on? And they're like, oh non, Jahon, le manière tu dis courriel, franchement, c'est très drôle. Ici, c'est email. Like the way you're saying courriel, which is a Quebec-specific way of saying email. Like Quebec, we invent our own terms sometimes. Like for example, in email, you take the word courrier, which means mail, like traditional snail mail, and you take the word électronique. They take the L in electronic and the courrier, and they combine it to make courriel. And they just thought that was very funny. So I was just like, this whole time I thought it was funny. They're like, no, Jahon, t'es très drôle. You're a very funny guy. But yeah, I remember it was the first time I'm like, people would be like, oh, le Québécois, like, and I was just like really kind of surprised. I'm like, me, le Québécois. I was like the first time I ever, I don't hide who I am. I am a person of diversity. I'm mixed origin. I'm proud of my heritage, both sides. But yeah, it was kind of like the first time, kind of like, someone born in Ontario should be allowed to be considered Ontarian, and things are open. Now I hear it more often, just in day to day, people just refer to me as their fellow citizen of this province. And I think it's great. I think it's wonderful.
Wow. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, yeah, you're one of my favorite Quebecois. And yeah, why don't we talk a little bit about unconventional ways of improving your French, right? Because everybody's just like immersion, education. You could go work in a restaurant. Like workplace is pretty good. But yeah, you have some unconventional, quirky ways that you've learned French.
Well, first of all, Erica, I want to congratulate you for finishing French university in French to be a translator. I think that's awesome.
Oh, I forgot to say I became a translator.
You did become a translator.
Yeah, because I worked for 2 years at the House for People with Intellectual Disabilities. And I did some like live translation, which is called interpretation, right? So I would be the the francophone would do their presentation or whatever, and then I would be the person I would translate. It's called consecutive interpretation. I would translate after them. And I thought, oh, this is appreciated. People appreciate this. And it was like interesting for your brain. And then I just went back to translation because before I was taking French classes, but I was studying literature, right? So it was kind of like there was a bit of overlap. But yeah, I did become a translator. So you translate from French into English. So you still are working a lot in English, but you're reading French. Well, thanks for saying that, Jahon. So that is, you can study a field that is a lot to do with French or the language you want to learn. But yeah, what about your quirky conventional methods? Like what's happening with this poutine poem, slam poetry?
Oh, slam poetry. My goodness. To be honest, I don't think my slam poetry I want to divulge it yet. It's still work in progress.
Okay.
I'm intentionally making it very cringy. I'm just kind of almost playing a character, really. I don't know if the internet's ready for it, but it's a lot of word plays, a lot of like puts in your estomac. Just it's a bit nonsensical.
Okay.
I'm already feeling the cringe right now. Like I don't know if you felt it, but like my abs like went, so it's good to make abdominal muscles. I don't know. I'm trying to get fit
Oh.
for bikini weather, you know?
Why are we talking about bikinis?
I don't know, sweetie. Hold on, let me just edit this part out. Conventional ways that I've learned French. First and foremost, podcasts. You know, you got to listen to your podcast. You know, if you are a sports guy, listen to a sports podcast. If you are a reality television guy, listen to reality television podcast. If you are a Star Wars girl, listen to a Star Wars podcast in French. And I did the same thing for my French podcast. I listened to Le Golden Top G podcast with Pascal Marino and Magali Saint-Vincent. Basically, they pretend to be these like, there are these comedians in French, and they pretend to be these like really toxic podcasters in the English-speaking sphere. Like, for example, they invite one of their friends who is a drag queen to pretend to be a trad wife. And they have like a very, very kind of parody type conversation that's quite funny. Very hilarious, very much hilarious. And there's also other podcasts of comedians I was listening to. And one of them was Arnaud Soli. And he inspired me to do French improv. And I really have to recommend highly, like, if I could go back in time and tell my younger self to do something to improve my French, it would be join a French comedy class, improv class, because you're constantly having to think in a very spontaneous manner.
On your feet, yeah.
On your feet. And it's also like, people are really cool about it too. Like, downtown Montreal, there's a theater called Théâtre Sainte-Catherine, and they have free improv workshops on Monday in French, but also free in English on Sunday. So if you're too shy to start directly in French, do it in English, and then you can do it in French. And don't worry, there's tons of people who do that. Like, there's tons of Francophones who show up to the English show, show up to the English workshop just to practice their French, and vice versa. And really, really, I had so much fun. And the second thing was mainly because I kept listening to a lot of podcasts about comedy in French, and I just thought, hey, why don't I try that? You know, like, yeah. And I just thought about, hey, why don't I try, you know, comedy? And I did one with Le Vrai Open Mic. They had like this comedy show. I know they changed their format now. Now you can't do this anymore, but before you could just show up, you put your name in a hat, and they pick out names, and whoever gets picked out does a 5-minute set.
Terrifying. Okay.
Yeah. And honestly, like, the feeling of doing comedy in French was just absolutely terrifying. And it was the first time I did stand up at all, and I wanted
French
to do
or
it for
English, yeah.
Yeah, and I did like 8. I don't know, like, I wrote. It took me 8 hours to write 5 minutes. It was so outrageous.
Oh.
And I show up there, and it's like, mentally, it felt like I was like a 13-year-old boy. You know, in that a 13-year-old boy who decided, hey, you know, I'm gonna ask that girl out today. You know, like, in your head, you're like, I'm gonna do it, but then you don't really sleep well the night before.
No.
You're like, oh, I'm so weird. It feels like someone's stabbing my stomach with icicles and tickling my armpits with I don't know, icicles too. You know, it's just a very icy time. And then I show up, they pick my name, and the feeling of being done it, it felt like the feeling the first time a girl said, yeah, I'll go on a date with you. And spoiler, the first time I asked a girl, she did not say she was not okay. She didn't want to go on a date with me when I was 13.
Devastating.
Which is okay. I'm over it. And hey, that's part of it. Rejection. And you know, you don't learn through life through just every experience being amazing. However, I will say, the first time I did stand-up comedy, it went really well.
Yeah, you did. You killed. You did good. I heard the recording.
But to be fair, like, later on, I had other stand-up comedy events, and it didn't go as like well. But you know, that's life, ups and downs, and
yeah, that's also stand-up comedy. Guaranteed, it won't always go well.
No. What about yourself?
That's amazing.
Erica? Thank you. What about yourself? What are the unconventional?
Okay.
Or conventional ways?
Okay, well, we already talked about my TV binging, but I guess for the oral stuff, because really a big challenge for me is the accent and pronunciation confidence. But one time back when I was fun employed and binge watching Quebec Grey's Anatomy stats, when of the ways I was trying to get work was interpretation, right? So in written translation, you always translate into your mother tongue. So you go into your best language, into English. But interpretation, they expect you to go both ways. So I had this contract. It was a 2-day interpretation contract. And I was like, I knew I was going to have to translate into French. Like you just had to, it was based on the speaker. So there was going to be English speakers, French speakers. A lot of them are going to be English speakers, PS. And I was like, what am I going to do? So there is a technique and it's called shadowing. And this is like if you ever go to interpretation school, this is like lesson 1. So you listen to the speaker, and while they're talking, you repeat what they say, but they keep talking. So you have to repeat what they say in the same language, right? So if they're speaking French, you repeat what they say in French, but you have to keep listening, because that's kind of what you have to do in interpretation. You have to keep listening while you're talking. So first, for shadowing, you just do it in the same language. And then eventually you switch to the other language. So then you could do listening in English and then translate into French, vice versa, right? So but step 1 was listening to French and repeating in French. And that was very good for listening and for pronunciation as well. So that was my unconventional technique. I'm going to try stand-up comedy in French one time. Like one of the times you go to the open mic, I will go, because then the open mic will be like, sometimes open mics are a bit long, but if you participate, it's like I'll just try it. I'll try it one time, but I know it's going to be funny for the wrong reasons, and that's fine.
Yeah, just a whole experience. Love it.
Yeah. We have a riveting listener question, but before this, there's one last conventional method for learning French, and Jahon also has like a public service announcement. He's an ambassador for a certain thing. So, but what is really important is reading, right? So let Jahon do your plug for your favorite thing in the world.
Erica J. Schmidt, reader. She changed the name. No, seriously. I'm holding up what is called a Kobo, which is an e-reader. It's a specific type of e-reader, similar to a Kindle, but what's the fun thing is you can hook it up with the library. So you can get books from the library without being physically at the library. Mm-hmm. It's great. It's wonderful. And what's also fun is you can also get previews just for fun. One little trick is you can actually get, say, if you want to read Lord of the Rings, you can just look for the box set of Lord of the Rings, and for whatever reason, the publisher sometimes they'll let you preview just like 25%, but 25% will literally be the whole Hobbit book. So it's kind of a bit of a weird thing.
Glitch in the system. Okay.
Okay. So in short, why should I have a Kobo? Library. You get free books from the library. Second reason, the big one is you can click a word if you don't understand it, and it'll give you the definition in French, in a French dictionary, give you the definition in a French and English dictionary, like the translation one. And what I love about it is, yes, you can do the same thing with your phone and your smartphone and your book, but the problem with that is if you do that once a page, because usually you understand everything except that one or two
words a page, that's what I found, yeah.
But what happens is, you glance at your phone. And the problem with glancing at your phone, you see notification, you get that siren call of the dopamine nation that Zuckerberg created, and you can easily fall into that trap, and it really breaks.
Check the weather.
Yeah, check the weather. Remember, you should probably call your mom. Oh, hello, mom. But seriously, and what's fun is you can even add, in the newer Kobos, you can even add it to a set vocabulary list. So it'll even tell you, oh, here's your vocabulary. And what's fun is you can easily highlight, you can type stuff in. Really, really good stuff. And with that, I think there's a reader question of sorts we have to answer.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, listener question. So yeah, everybody get a Kobo. Kobo, if you're listening, you're welcome to sponsor the podcast. A lot of things are welcome to sponsor the podcast. Okay, so we have a listener question. Dear Erica and Jahon, I'm a 24-year-old woman and I just moved to Montreal. My French is at an intermediate level. I'm on the apps. Oh, bless your heart. And I thought that dating would be the perfect opportunity to practice and hopefully master my French. But so far, all the dudes I've gone out with have switched to messaging and speaking in English, regardless of their language level. I find this a bit deflating. A lot of dates end up mediocre anyways. Oh. For me, they'd feel like less of a waste of time if I could use them to improve my French. Do you have any tips on requesting that suitors speak in French only? Love, a girl who just wants to French some dudes. Okay, great. Well, that is an unconventional way to learn French, is to date in French. They say the best place to learn French is in bed. Okay, what do you think, Jahon?
Oh, what do you think, first of all, about this?
Okay, well, I actually did do some dating in my 20s in French, not on the apps, before the apps, but if my book ever gets published, you'll learn about how I practiced my French and the best place to practice French. You said you have intermediate French. I understand, especially if you have an accent, people automatically switch to, like, they can't conjugate, but they will switch to English as though they're doing you this huge favor, and it is deflating. And also it seems a little counterproductive sometimes because it doesn't make for the best communication. I mean, I used to have a dream that I would find a husband, which that isn't a dream of mine anymore, but that I would find a husband in French and then I would become so bilingual because I would be living in French with this person. Over the years, I found that my personality, maybe because I didn't date enough in French in my 20s, but I want somebody who appreciates my English. I'm a writer. The way I speak in English matters to me, the word choices, and I just want somebody who appreciates that, which I guess that doesn't rule out francophones, but I don't know. I think I'm funnier in English, so that's not like that. It's just, yeah. For me, it just sort of philosophically. I'm not saying like I would never date a francophone, but I know I've been in your position of being like, oh, I must date a francophone, and it's just like, it's just, how can I say? I feel like, how can I say this? I don't know. I guess it's just like when you're younger, you also have a list. You have a list of all the things you want. And sometimes, like, I don't know. As I got older, I kind of let go of my list, except I did want somebody who looked like Jesus. Am I allowed to say that?
I guess. I mean, that's your spiritual background. I guess you can kind of say that.
I wanted a smoking hot boyfriend that looked.
That's very kind of you. You're very beautiful yourself. And fun fact, actually, the first part of my last name translates to Moses. So
okay, so I didn't get
close.
A Jesus, I got a Moses. Great. Okay.
There you go. Bingo.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, you have no idea. I just wrote some quick notes because I didn't want to interrupt you. You have no idea if you're funny in French because you didn't do stand-up comedy in French, and I'm dying to see that.
Okay.
You could be very funny. And my second question is, when you're a 20-year-old self, Erica, who is this magical Quebecer husband? What was his name? I'm just wondering about his name and profession.
Like if I was going to imagine?
Yeah. As a 20-year-old, were you like Jean-Pierre, the doctor, the architect?
I don't know if I had. I would have liked to date a doctor because I would like them. I have some hypochondria, so I would like them to like rule that out.
Do you mind if I say my bit? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, what's her? Did she leave a name?
A girl who just wants to French some dudes.
Girl who wants to French some dudes. Okay, so first thing is you got to state it up front in your bio. You got to be like, look, if French is your French language, I'm going to ask that you please speak to me in French.
Mm-hmm.
And that will be, and I'm telling you, like, especially on the apps, is like, you kind of have a little bit the upper hand, especially if a guy decided, hey, like, I'm going to ask this person out. Like, they're probably going to be really more than happy to accommodate you. If you say, hey, I don't feel like going to this bar, I want to go to this bar instead, is that possible? They'll probably say yes. Honestly, the ball is 100% in your court. Just say, two things from the right from the get-go. You speak to me in French, and you get to write to me in French.
Okay, that's
and-
very interesting. Do
well,
you put this on the profile, you think?
I would put, like, if I was a girl and I was getting mad, like, I would probably, just because, like, if everybody has different preferences, and I think you should just kind of state it right from the get-go what your preferences are. So, she can be like, well, I'm not opposed to dating people who don't speak French natively, but I do, if you do speak it, I do expect you to speak to me in French and write to me in French.
I have something to say. Okay, so I'm a big fan of the Burned Haystack Facebook dating. There's like a Facebook dating club. It's blown up the dating world. This woman, Jenny Young, she has a book called Burn the Haystack coming out. Like, it should be out by the time this episode is published. But for online dating, she has a method. It's for women. But the idea is, how do you find a needle in the haystack? You burn it down, right? So it's a very ruthless approach to online dating, where there's certain patterns that men are using, mostly men, that are red flags, and that are like, if you read these patterns, it's block to burn. Like, don't just like block them and get them out of your dating pool, and don't even worry about it. Block them. And I don't have them memorized, but one of them is directives. Like, one of them is including specific directives in your profile. And I don't know if, like, this applies to men, but it's like saying you must do this. It's like it's considered one of the most serious rhetorical patterns. So I don't think you can put a directive in your profile, even if you're a woman. Like, I think you have to put it as a preference.
Honestly, these are very sensitive topics because we're talking about dating in both language. I would maybe just say, oh, by the way, when they propose, like, hey, let's go meet up for some drinks, and just say, I would love to, but I would ask that you accommodate me as a gentleman and exclusively speak to me in French. And if he's a gentleman and he thinks that's a reasonable accommodation, he'll say yes. He might say it's not a reasonable accommodation. Okay, well, then the next person. I think honestly, like, I would say to this listener, be assertive, be direct, be polite. And I think this is my own personal viewpoint, is I believe in being direct, tactful, and diplomatic, and polite. Because then if you're not those things, what happens is, like, in my opinion, it builds up people are going to be resentful. And also, what I would say is, stay away from the trap of, oh, I'll practice language X and you can practice language Y.
Okay.
So, for example, I've had two roommates in this apartment. The first roommate didn't really want to speak to me in French, and he was like, hey, Jahon, don't worry. You can speak to me in French and you get to practice, and I'll speak to you in English and you can practice your English. And I was just like, well, then I'm not going to hear use
true.
all these nice terms, and I'm not going to hear you use the masculine and feminine in the correct order, and I'm just going to be talking into the void. And I remember with my second roommate, and when I was looking for a roommate, and I told them very clear from the start, I said, hey, I'm looking for a francophone roommate, and I want to both speak French and hear you speak French to me, both ways. And he was, at first when he came, he's like, oh, wow, c'est incroyable. It's incredible. You're Anglophone. I get to practice my English. And I said, unfortunately, no.
Wow.
But I'm going to politely ask you if you want to practice, practice that, politely. I just want to guide you towards, a situation of a near future where you can do that with another person in your quest to find a roommate. But for me, I really need someone who's going to speak French with me, and he was a wonderful roommate. His name's Clarence.
So you were basically like, this is a deal breaker territory for me. Like, if you don't want to speak French to me, I don't want to be your roommate.
Close. I wouldn't say 100%, but very, very close. And the thing is, like, especially, you kind of have a little bit the upper hand because I had the apartment already. And it was in a nice neighborhood, and it was a reasonable price. So, I mean, the girl, if she's getting asked, it's like she kind of has a little bit of the upper hand, and people are going to be a lot more flexible. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it is a way to wait. Like, it is like you probably get tons of matches. So it is a way to weed people out. Like, that's your block to burn is just you have to be francophone and speak to me in French. I would just be careful. I would have a soft, like, I think you can be more assertive once you start talking to people, but I would really frame it as this is my preference. Like, I just think you have to be gentle in terms of like demanding people to speak a language. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like you can. There's a diplomatic and there's a kind and there's a respectful way to say anything. Like, again, I don't think I personally would not date someone because they don't speak French. Like, I love you and I'm dating you. I'm very proud to say that. But
it's like a year later, it's like, well, actually, I kind of wanted to date a francophone.
no, absolutely not.
I'm upset. I'm upset.
No. But I wouldn't rule it out. But if you notice, like, oh, this person, this could be an interesting, fun little cherry on the sundae. Why not?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, but you guys could go to improv in French together if he's an anglophone and he needs to work on his French. You could work on your French together, right? And it is, of course, you won't learn as quickly as if he was francophone. But I just feel with dating, having a lot of rules and expectations, that's never gone well for me. But like you may just. On a casual level, I can see it. Yeah. And I think, Jahon, you were saying that it can be, as a man dating somebody in Quebec who doesn't speak English or doesn't speak French at all. You said that like that could be a little awkward at restaurants because you felt that you were the point person and like you had to sort of stop yourself from ordering like you like helping your date too much when she wasn't able to communicate in French.
Yeah, I mean, a bit tricky situation. I would say with my parents, for sure, like the parent who spoke French did pretty much all the talking whenever we're in public. There's kind of like a balanced situation there that's intriguing. And yeah, I remember going on a date with a girl. She was from England. And anytime there's a situation to interact with anybody, she would just go like this with her hand, like, as in, like, you get this when you talk to this, or like, can you ask this? And I was just like, oh, no, it's okay. You can ask. You don't talk. You can talk for both parties. I don't mind. And she's like, yeah, but you speak, you speak better. Like I don't actually speak French. I'm too scared. And I was like, I was a little bit like, well, that's the thing. I don't want to be that weird person who just doesn't let the other person speak in situations. I don't know. I felt kind of a little bit awkward. So yeah, just a intriguing dynamic, I guess.
Yeah, intriguing. Well, girl who just wants to French some dudes, I find your dilemma very intriguing. I'd love it if you wrote back to us to let us know how your dating's going. Yeah, maybe make a vision board. Okay, well, I think, is there anything else you wanted to tell the listeners, Jahon?
I think you're amazing. And also, a fun way to practice your French is by reading books that are French with your girlfriend. That's a pretty cool way.
Do we do that?
We do that quite a bit. We do read.
We have book. Yeah, we don't read them out loud together, but we you'll read a book, recommend it. Yeah, we're sharing book recs. Yeah, that's very romantic.
Yeah.
Yeah, on that note, we have a very exciting announcement coming up for This Is Your Strange and Beautiful Life. So if you were like, what's happening to the podcast? Is it coming back? Well, it's definitely coming back at least one more time because Jahon is going to come back on the podcast for a very exciting special project. I wonder what it is. It involves, are we going to give them any clues? Reading. It involves reading. Okay.
Reading. Yeah, reading.
Yeah, but you don't have to be francophone. It is still going to be in English. Okay. And how many times have I said stay tuned? Stay tuned, everybody, for a very special project. And This is the end. Okay, so thank you so much, Jahon Mousavi-Torbati, for coming on the show. Can people follow you on the interwebs?
Yeah, they can. They can go on my Instagram, Jahon Art. That's my Instagram. They can also go on Conspart Drink and Draw in order to check out all the latest of Conspart Drink and Draw meetups, or just jahon.ca.
Okay, wonderful. So we'll link to that in the show notes. The drink and draws are very fun. And endless thanks, Jahon. Also, thank you as always to my darling big sister, Tess Levitt, and to Sherwin Tijia, my creative advisor, most cherished friend, Alexia Cote. She listens to almost every episode. I hope she doesn't miss the end of this one. And thank you to you, dear listeners. Thank you for watching, listening, whatever you're doing. Don't forget to, smash the subscribe button, follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, your favorite platforms. Slide into my DMs. You can reach me at erica.j.schmidt on Instagram or my website, ericajschmidt.com. Are you ready? Oh, and thank you for my dearly departed aunt, Eileen Gunn, who helped me buy some microphones. That was really great. And are you ready to sing the theme song one more time?
Sure.
Okay. This is your strange and beautiful life. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Jahon. Okay, so yeah, happy French, happy learning French, and so good for your brain and so rewarding and so fun. So please don't ever give up on your French. Okay, love you. Talk soon. Love you. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.